Hello and welcome to DOZ Monologues, hosted by Eturuvie Erebor. DOZ Monologues, also known as DOZ Chronicles Audio Stories, aims to educate, inspire, and drive societal change. All stories are written and narrated by Eturuvie Erebor, and all rights are reserved, including the right of reproduction in whole or in part, in any form. This is episode 17, titled The Oath of Secrecy. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. The Oath of Secrecy. Biola was dead at 17. The news was unexpected and hit me hard. But it didn't hit me as hard as her mother's reaction. "Chinuke, Biola is gone," she said to me when I visited her at home shortly after I received the news. It is very tragic, but what is truly heartbreaking is the lie she told about my husband. I don't know this pastor, nor do I understand why she went to him to spread such atrocious stories about a man who has been a good father to her. It is all falsehood, lies from the pit of hell. She spoke like someone talking about the death of an acquaintance, and not the untimely and sudden demise of her daughter. As more sympathizers arrived, I excused myself, saying that I had been away from the shop for too long and needed to return. It was still morning, but a lot had already happened. Earlier, I arrived at the shop at my usual opening time and spent the first hour taking stock and reviewing the previous day's sales. Omolawa rushed into the shop just then. Like me, Omolawa was a sales girl. She worked next door, and we have been good friends for the past 7 years. "Chinuke, have you heard the terrible news?" she asked as she dropped onto the bench in the shop, not caring that she knocked over boxes of disposable diapers as she did. "What is the matter?" I asked as I bent to arrange the boxes, feeling a little confused and concerned about her behavior. "Biola is dead," she proclaimed, jumping to her feet with her hands on her head as she turned around aimlessly in the shop. I paused my activity and slowly stood up. "Biola?" I asked, my heart racing. "Which Biola?" It couldn't be the Biola I believed it to be. It had better not be the Biola I thought it was. Omolawa paused her movements and turned to look at me, her hands still on her head. "Which Biola do you think, Chinuke?" she asked. "How is it possible?" I murmured, my voice trembling with disbelief. "She was just here less than 24 hours ago." Biola had been in the shop only the evening before. She had looked full of life, dressed in her signature style, jeans and an adire top, her braided hair cascading down her shoulders. Her backpack was so full of books that I wondered how she could carry its weight on her slender shoulders. She arrived just before I closed the shop for the day to collect the money from the day's sales for her mother. For the past 3 months, ever since she started her jam lessons, she had often stopped by the shop on her way home to either withdraw money from the day's sales for her mother or to deliver a message. "Biola, how are you?" I asked as soon as she stepped into the shop. She shrugged and smiled at me. I recalled that her eyes did not reflect the smile. I had assumed she was tired because she had just come from jam lessons. "I'm fine, Auntie Chinuke," she said. "Good evening." Seeing her tired, I didn't waste her time, but hurriedly gave her the money she asked for. "Goodbye, Auntie Chinuke," she said, looking over her shoulder and waving as she left the shop. I snapped out of my reverie as Omolawa returned to the bench, sat down and gestured for me to join her. "She died this morning," she said, lowering her voice. "The women in the market who attend Wednesday morning prayers with Pastor Deji, say she came to the church to confess some abominable things, after which she slumped and died. On Wednesday mornings in Ibadan, a large crowd from across the city gathered for prayers. This event had been ongoing for nearly 2 years, with the market women constantly in attendance. It was led by a young Pentecostal pastor, affectionately known as Pastor Deji. I had never participated in the meetings, as they started too early for my liking, and I wasn't inclined to leave my house at dawn to pray for 2 hours before heading to the shop. I wondered why Biola had attended the prayer meeting and what troubling confession she had made. As far as I knew, her family went to a different church. Had she gone by herself? Did her parents accompany her? What motivated her to go there? How was this related to her death? Omolara, you are making no sense. What happened to Biola? I demanded. She was here yesterday evening. I know she was here yesterday evening. I saw her, Omolara said. But this morning, I stopped to buy food from the food vendors at the market gate, and I heard she had died. They say she approached the pastor at the end of the prayer meeting and told him some troubling things before she collapsed. Those who were present tried to revive her while also praying for her, but she didn't make it. Just as she finished talking, a woman who owned a shop in a different lane in the market entered and repeated everything Omolara had said. She claimed to have heard the story from someone at the church who witnessed Biola speaking to the pastor. She said Biola had told the pastor that she had matters weighing on her heart and needed to be free, even if it meant she would die. The pastor had told her she would not die, but after their conversation, Biola collapsed, leaving the pastor and all present in a state of panic. Several women entered the shop and began discussing the event that had taken place earlier that morning. They claimed that Biola had confessed that her stepfather had been sexually abusing her for years. Additionally, she claimed that he frequently took her to a shrine where she was forced to drink 2 portions. One portion was meant to prevent her from becoming pregnant, while the other was given to her after she swore an oath of secrecy, stating that she would die if she ever revealed what was happening to her. I locked the shop and quickly rushed to the house to see Biola's mother. She and her husband had been called after Biola collapsed and arrived just as she died. I wasn't sure what I had anticipated, but I certainly hadn't expected to see the woman without tears. While it was possible that, like me, she was still trying to process the information, I never expected her to call her daughter a liar. The sweet girl I knew was not a liar. There had to be some truth in the allegations she made. Assuming that those sharing the story had accurately conveyed what Biola had revealed to the pastor. I met Biola 7 years ago when I first started working for her mother, Mrs. Eniola Jegede. Everyone referred to her as Mommy Biola or Biola's mommy. She was a beautiful woman who owned a large shop in Ibadan's main market where she sold baby items. The shop offered everything you needed to care for a baby from the day they were born until their second birthday. The first time I saw Biola, I was drawn to her. Her mother's beauty was passed down to her. She was also intelligent, respectful, and friendly. She was the sole offspring of her mother and father. Her father passed away when she was 6 years old, and that was when her mother discovered a shocking truth. The man she believed was her husband actually had a wife and 3 children who were his primary family. Biola and her mother had always been the side family. This revelation was devastating for her mother. She took the money given to her by his extended family and moved from Akure to Ibadan, where she started her business to provide for her daughter. It didn't take long for me to learn about their story. Whenever Biola misbehaved, her mother would recount how Biola was just like her late father and seemed determined to ruin her life as he had done. At that time, she was newly remarried and pregnant with her husband's first child. Her husband, Mr. Jegede, was a notorious money lender in Ibadan and owned a shop in the main market. He was a short, thick man with a beer belly, often adorned with numerous gold chains around his neck and rings on his fingers. Nobody in Ibadan liked him. He was the cause of many families' sorrows. Jegede was notorious for his association with local thugs, whom he regularly hired to forcibly confiscate properties used as collateral for the loans he offered. Whenever anyone defaulted on their repayments, he showed no hesitation in seizing their land or homes without any regard for their circumstances. His approach to business was widely regarded as ruthless, and many in the community viewed him with suspicion and fear. There was also persistent rumors about his involvement in witchcraft. Some accused him of using supernatural practices to further his business interests, claiming that borrowers often experienced inexplicable misfortunes after taking loans from him. According to these allegations, many business owners experienced a sudden, mysterious downturn in their fortunes, making it nearly impossible for them to repay what they owed. I could never understand how Biola's mother, a stunning woman with a tall, slender body of a runway model, ended up marrying a man who was not only physically unattractive but also had a mean spirit. Many claimed he bewitched her, making her actions questionable, and it might be true. Over the years, the unlikely pair had 4 children together, 2 boys and 2 girls. After the birth of their first child, Biola's mother left the shop in my care and became a full-time stay-at-home parent, getting involved in the business only for certain activities such as restocking. I frequently saw Biola, as her mother would often send her to me when she needed some peace and quiet at home. I loved having her around. She was very inquisitive and chatty, often making me laugh with her questions and silly remarks. The customers liked her as well, and whenever she was in the shop, they would often give her a tip when they tipped me, not because she served them, but because they were charmed by her beautiful face and delightful words. Reflecting on the past, I tried to identify any signs that her life was anything but the perfect facade it presented. Since becoming a teenager, she had become withdrawn and had lost much of her cheerfulness. She smiled less often, laughed less frequently, and even her smiles never seemed to reach her eyes. Additionally, she had become more closed off and less talkative. At the time, I attributed her behavior to typical teenage changes. However, I now wonder if it was actually a response to the abuse she was enduring at home, which she felt unable to speak about due to a vow of secrecy. Tears filled my eyes as I climbed out of the taxi and walked the short distance to the market and the shop. I let them fall freely. Shop owners and attendants had all heard the sad news about the cheerful girl whom many of them had watched grow up for nearly a decade. The atmosphere was heavy, enveloping those around me. Whispers of "I'm sorry" floated through the air, mingling with soft encouragements like "take heart." As I unlocked the wrought iron gate of the shop and entered, Omolara, who had been anxiously waiting for my return, dashed out of her shop and followed closely behind me. "Did you see that wicked man?" she asked. "I didn't see him," I replied, shaking my head and wiping my tears. "He stayed inside while visitors came and went, offering their condolences to Biola's mom, which, if you ask me, is a waste of time." Omolara's brow furrowed. "What are you trying to say?" I sank onto the bench, my legs unable to support me any longer. "She is dry-eyed, speaking as if she has lost merely an acquaintance rather than her own daughter. She doesn't even believe the confession of the poor child. Omolara, her mouth agape and eyes wide in surprise, joined me on the bench. You can't be serious. Has he bewitched her to that extent? It would seem, I remarked, as I reached for my water bottle and took a long gulp to quench my thirst. Even if I had any doubts about the truth of Biola's confession, the fact that they want to bury her so quickly is enough for me to believe there was foul play. I frowned, wondering what she was talking about. Bury her quickly? Omolara nodded. Yes, after you left to go to the house, Soji stopped by and we had a chat. Soji was the sales representative working for Jegede. He also acted as Jegede's errand boy and was despised just as much as Jegede and his thugs. This was largely due to the unpleasant task he sometimes had to perform, informing people that they had defaulted on their loans and that their land or houses were about to be seized. What did he say? I asked, eager to find out. He declined to comment on Biola's confession, and I understand his reasons. He needs to keep his job, especially since his wife is expecting their first child. However, he mentioned that he had been asked to purchase a casket and that a grave was already being dug for her at the local cemetery. She is set to be buried this evening. I was puzzled and questioned the truth of what I had heard. Biola's mother hadn't mentioned any plans for a burial that evening. Granted, Biola was a child, and there wasn't the same need for a delay in her burial as there might be for an older person with a spouse and children who require time to gather and mourn. Nonetheless, burying her just hours after her death, especially considering the circumstances surrounding it, felt suspicious. Just like that? I asked, dumbfounded. She only passed away this morning. What's the rush? Won't they at least allow her late father's family to get involved and decide if they would like to take her home to Akure to bury her next to her father? Apparently, they won't allow her late father's family or anyone to get involved, if all Soji said is true. Omolara looked towards the doorway and, convinced no one was looking around, listening in on our conversation, she turned to me. What are your thoughts? I didn't want to think about the situation. I didn't want to dwell on Biola, who had been helpless and abused by that terrible man for years, unable to tell anyone or get the help she needed. Once again, tears filled my eyes and rolled down my cheeks. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I haven't fully processed everything, but I never knew Biola to lie. Omolara gave my knee a comforting squeeze. That man Jegede has always seemed very devious to me. I'm not the only one who thinks this. Everyone in Ibadan shares the same sentiment. And now they want to bury the girl without even informing her father's family about her death. Something doesn't add up. Mark my words. She didn't wait for me to respond. Instead, she gave my knee a quick pat and hurried out of the shop into her own. After she left, I sat there reflecting on everything I had heard. Biola had never been particularly close to her father's family. Biola's mother seemed to be using the almost non-existent relationship with her father's side of the family as an opportunity to bury the child without informing them. It wasn't my place to dictate whether she should include them, but I couldn't help wondering why she chose not to. Although she personally did not believe the allegations against her husband, the quick decision to bury the girl only added to the credibility of the allegations. I questioned why anyone wouldn't believe the allegations. How often had people accused Jegede of being involved in occult practices and using dark powers to manipulate those who borrowed money from him, leading to financial troubles for many? Also, on several occasions, I observed him kiss the numerous rings he wore on his fingers while talking to others. I remembered an incident that happened a year ago. He had come to the shop to help me go through the inventory because his wife was unable to do it. While he was there, Soji came in to inform him that customers were waiting in his shop to conduct business. After Soji left, he stood up as if to leave, but paused in the middle of the shop, looking at his fingers, which were oddly devoid of any rings. "Oh my God," he muttered under his breath. "I forgot to wear my rings today of all days." I glanced at his hands and quickly looked away before he noticed me staring. What should I do now? What can I do? He placed his hands on his hips and looked up at the high ceiling of the shop, lost in thought. I occupied myself with the inventory, counting and recounting the stock we had already tallied as I pondered his unusual behavior. "Should I go home to get my rings?" he asked, glancing at his watch. "No, I can't do that. There will be a lot of traffic at this time of day, and I can't expect the customers to wait for me. This was very careless of me. How could I have forgotten my rings?" Just when I began to feel uncomfortable with his pacing around the shop and talking to himself, he suddenly stopped, looked at his hands again, holding them out before him. "It's fine. I'll attend the meeting without the rings." He kissed each finger where the rings would have been and then patted himself from head to toe, muttering, "I don't need the rings. It's in the blood. Yes, it's in the blood." As I emerged from my contemplation, I allowed the tears to flow freely as I reflected on what the child had experienced for years at the hands of that evil man. I considered the ways I could have helped her, and a heartbreaking sob escaped my lips. I bent over, covering my face with my hands, letting myself weep for the pain she had endured and for the unfortunate circumstances that had caused her life to collide with Jegede's. I expected Biola's mother to call me to get involved in any arrangements being made for her burial. Everyone in the market was whispering about it. When I didn't receive any calls, I called her just before locking up the shop and leaving for the day. She seemed surprised that I hadn't gone home. "Why are you still in the shop?" she asked. "I was wondering if perhaps you would need me to come to the house." I was uncertain how to tell her I had heard about the plan to bury Biola that evening, without revealing that I had been listening to gossip. "Oh no, Tinuke, I don't need anything else from you today. Please close the shop and go home. Tomorrow you can come over after you close and we can go over the sales." I went home as instructed. Perhaps she didn't need any help because there was no burial. Just because Soji had been asked to buy a casket and had heard that a grave was being dug in the cemetery didn't necessarily mean a burial will take place that evening. That night, I had a restless sleep, constantly imagining Biola's face, the smile that had faded over the years and no longer reached her eyes. My dreams were filled with her. She reached out several times and said, "Auntie Tinuke, help me." I tried to grasp her hand, but each time she was too far away and vanished before I could reach her. The last time I saw her, it was different. She entered the shop, elegantly dressed in a white maxi dress and matching white shoes. A white Alice band decorated with feathers adorned her braided hair. She looked angelic and happy, with a smile that lit up her eyes, reminiscent of her old chatty self. "Biola, you look beautiful," I said. "Your gown is stunning and your smile is radiant. You seem truly happy." "That's because I am," she said. "I'm going to stay with my dad in Akure. I came to say goodbye." She waved and her smile grew even wider as she disappeared from my sight. I woke up with a start. As I did, my eyes fell on my phone lying on the floor beside my mattress, and I panicked as I realized it was already 7 a.m. There was no time to process my dream or what it meant, so I got up and began to prepare. Just as I was getting ready to leave the house, my phone started ringing. It was Omolara. "Omolara, please, I can't talk now," I said, without waiting for her to speak. "I need to leave the house now. I am running late." "Don't worry about being late," she said. "There is no work today. Your shop was burnt down in the night." I stood frozen in place. What do you mean? My shop burned down? I asked, my heart racing. The shop has been burned down, she repeated. It happened in the early hours of the morning and is clearly arson, as Jagade's shop was also set on fire and both shops were broken into first. No other shop in the market was affected. Some suspect it was Biola's father's family, as Biola was buried yesterday evening and none of her father's family members were informed of her death. Others believe it was done by individuals who dislike Jagade and want to punish him and Biola's mother. Biola was buried last night? I asked, astonished. Yes, Omalara confirmed. She was quietly buried by Soji and the grave diggers. No family members were involved, nor was there a pastor, only her stepfather's errand boy and 2 grave diggers. The situation felt very suspicious to me. I decided to visit Biola's mother, but first I wanted to stop by the shop to see what had happened. It was a fortunate decision to stop by the shop because it prevented me from going to the house and getting caught in a brawl. News of Biola's death, along with her confession to the pastor and the swift funeral, had reached her father's family in Akure. They arrived in Ibadan very early that morning, bringing their own thugs. The family came in 2 groups. One headed to the cemetery to exhume the body, while the other stormed Biola's mother and stepfather's home, resulting in a fight that left many injured. An autopsy was conducted before Biola was buried next to her father in the family compound in Akure, and her stepfather was arrested for the sexual abuse of a minor. Following her husband's arrest, Biola's mother fled to Lagos with her children. Some say she went to Ghana, but she changed her phone number, making it impossible for anyone from Ibadan to contact her. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of episode 17 of DOZ Monologues. DOZ Monologues will return next week with another episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave your comments and subscribe, like and share if listening on YouTube. To contact me, please visit my website eturuvie.erebor.com or email me at eturuvie@eturuvieerebor.com. I invite all story lovers to explore my novels and novellas available on Amazon and Google Books. For audiobook enthusiasts, they are also on Audible. Thank you for listening. I am your favorite storyteller, Eturuvie Erebor, and I'll be here next Friday with another story.